Everyone, welcome. Welcome to Rage Lab number two. I cannot wait to embrace my inner destroyer. I don't know about you guys. Get cozy. Corinne and Amber are going to be on in just a few minutes. We're going to allow some folks to keep flowing in. So stand by.
Hi, everybody. So good to see you guys. Beautiful, gorgeous faces. Um, if you don't know who we are, maybe we should just start with some little sweet little intros. This is my friend Amber Meyer. We go back a long time. You may know her as a really badass, intuitive, serious coach and diva. She helps people really connect to their power. But I love her because, man, she's just one of my rocks in our community. She's amazing, so smart and so super cute, and she's got the best little bat legs ever. So we have a fun time playing up at Casa Condor. She's been up to Casa Condor probably with my retreat center, maybe even more than I have. So we've even gotten to know each other really well over the years. It is so fun to do this project with her because sacred disruption together is so much better than alone.
And you all probably know Corinne Grillo. You might know her as the founder of the Angel Alchemy Academy. Maybe you know her from her two best-selling books on angels. She also regularly leads these amazing life-changing retreats at Casa Condor. So if you haven't done that, I highly recommend. As Corinne said, I've been there. I think I've been there more than 20 times now, Corinne. I don't even know how that's possible,
How
but
is that possible? But
yeah,
yeah,
I don't even know. I don't even know. Because if those who don't know me, I live in Minnesota, so it's not like it's like really close by any means. Um, but one of the reasons I really, really love Corinne is she is like an absolute like no BS truth teller. And she is a sacred disruptor all the way down to her bones. And I started following her as a spiritual leader many years ago because honestly, like I felt like she was the only person who like really was actually keeping it real out there.
just trying. It's hard sometimes. But yeah, keeping it real by meaning cussing like a sailor, I think, is what you
It
meant.
helps.
Helps dumb it down a little, just enough. Oh my gosh. So, you know, we're doing these meetings and we really just kind of even conceived of this sacred revolt idea because there's so much going on in the world. There's so much not being talked about and said. And all of us are collectively going through just, especially if you're a sensitive, really intense overwhelm, exhaustion. And a lot of us are being called into leadership, and you may already be a leader, but you're getting a sense that you're leading, that you're leveling up. And, there's more for you somewhere on the inside. And when these big periods happen, we're called into different methods of survival. And these are extreme times. And these times require extreme interventions. So that's why we're talking about today embracing your sacred destroyer, because the sacred destroyer goes far beyond boundaries. Working with your sacred destroyer is like getting access to a compassionate kill switch. And that may sound extreme, but that's exactly what it is to match the times because this kind of energy beyond boundaries is really what it takes for us to stay sometimes grounded, centered, and for us to stay in alignment with who we are and also what our soul really is requiring of us as we expand. So leveling up does require some letting go in a powerful way. And so today we're going to talk about some myths about the sacred destroyer that a lot of us have been raised with. We're going to talk about part of her secret nature that a lot of people really don't know about and give you ways to work and access with her so that you really understand what this nature really is and 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 how beautiful and what a gift it is. Um, so before we get started fully into the content, we want to initiate you into the field of the sacred destroyer. So we are going to, our lovely Amber is going to walk us through yet another spiritually incorrect meditation to help us get into not just the right mindset, but the right heart and soul set for today's talk.
So that's right. We're gonna have you actually meet your sacred destroyer because really, like, what if the thing you were taught to fear really contains the medicine that you need? And what if some of the parts of yourself that you spent maybe your entire life suppressing, maybe your anger, your instinct, your fierceness, your boundaries, your disruption, maybe your don't fuck with me energy. What if those were never the problem? And what if they were things that were really trying to protect something sacred? So tonight we have another spiritually incorrect meditation for you where you're going to meet a dark ally, a fierce animal creature, not one that exists to make you softer, quieter, easier to digest, more spiritually polite. You're going to be an ally whose medicine may actually help you become harder to manipulate, harder to silence, more rooted in yourself, more untamed, more uncompromising, and really less available for your own self abandonment. And so, the important part I want you to catch is that the medicine you most often need is often hidden inside the thing that you recoil from. Because reclaiming your sacred destroyer means reclaiming the parts of yourself that you were conditioned to reject. So, who's ready to meet them? Awesome. So, go ahead and close your eyes if it feels safe to do so. And take a breath and just take another. Feel your body here. Feel the chair beneath you. And just simply feel the ground beneath that. And so tonight isn't about becoming softer. It's about becoming more fierce and harder to manipulate. Tonight is about meeting the parts of yourself that you buried, silenced, exiled, shamed, feared because they carried too much power. The parts of you that know how to survive, the parts of you that protect, that interrupt, that kill what needs to end. So tonight, you're not going to meet a fluffy spirit animal here to help you manifest a parking spot or to stay likable. You're going to meet a creature whose medicine can help you reclaim the parts of yourself that you were conditioned to silence. And maybe, just maybe, the very thing that you were taught to fear contains the exact medicine you need to reclaim your power. So I want you to take another breath. And as you exhale, I want you to imagine that you're standing in the desert at night. The air is cool, but the ground beneath you still carries the memory of the day's heat. And as you gaze out upon the desert, it looks barren at first, empty, still. But the longer you stand there, the more life you begin to notice. Some movement beneath the sand, eyes in the distance, creatures that have adapted to survive the harshest conditions. And nothing out here in the desert survives by being pretty, pleasing, or polite. Nothing survives here by being disconnected from instinct. And in the distance, you notice a fire burning. Go ahead and walk towards it. And as you approach the firelight, four creatures begin to emerge from the darkness around you. A black widow, a scorpion, a praying mantis, and a king cobra. And each of these creatures wants to introduce themselves to you tonight. And as you meet them, just notice what happens in your body. Notice which creature you can't stop watching. Notice which one really unsettles you. Maybe notice which one feels strangely familiar. And notice which one really sees you. Again, because often the medicine we need most is hidden inside the things that we were taught to fear. And remember, venom itself is often used to create antidotes. The poison and the medicine are sometimes born from the same source. And so the Black Widow steps forward first. Long legs, dark body, still as hell. The kind of energy that makes people uncomfortable before she's even done anything, which honestly is part of her medicine. The Black Widow is feared because she carries unapologetic feminine power, patience, precision, the kind of don't fuck with me energy that does not need to perform loudly to be deadly. And yeah, she's famously known for sometimes eating her mate after sex. So if you choose her, maybe unpack that with your therapist later. But underneath the fear and mythology, her medicine is deeper. Stop shrinking your power just because other people project danger onto women who refuse to be controlled. The Black Widow does not waste energy convincing anyone she's harmless. She simply is what she is. And now the Scorpion steps forward, armored, ancient, tail raised. The Scorpion carries sacred boundary medicine. Not this, I set a boundary once and then explained it 12 times while apologizing type of energy, but real boundary energy. That kind of says, fuck around and find out. The Scorpion survives harsh environments because it learned how to protect itself without abandoning itself. And contrary to popular belief, scorpions don't sting everything around them randomly. They sting when their sacredness is threatened, which honestly is a pretty important distinction for people who've been taught that protecting themselves is somehow unspiritual. And the praying mantis steps forward now, completely still, slightly horrifying, like a insect monk assassin sent directly from the underworld. The mantis carries the medicine of precision. No wasted movement, no frantic reacting, no leaking energy everywhere, trying to control everyone else's perception. Just stillness, observation, then one clean strike when the moment actually matters. And of course, female mantises are known for occasionally biting the heads off males during mating. No biggie. So apparently, tonight's theme is terrifying feminine archetypes who are absolutely done with bullshit and mediocrity. So the mantis asks, what would happen if you stopped reacting to everything and became precise in biting off the head that needs severing instead? And finally, the king cobra rises before you. Tall, steady, the hood expands slowly, not rushed, not chaotic, not trying to prove a damn thing. The cobra doesn't panic. It simply radiates, I know exactly what I'm capable of. And not today, Satan. This creature carries sovereign destroyer energy. The cobra strikes fast when necessary, but does not waste venom unnecessarily, which is important medicine because a lot of people either suppress their power completely or spray venom every damn where because they've never learned conscious power. The cobra teaches neither collapse nor chaos. The cobra teaches controlled power, sacred warning, instinct, the kind of nervous system that no longer folds the second tension enters the room. And the cobra asks, what would change if you stopped pretending to be less dangerous than you are? Now pause for a moment and just notice which creature wants to step forward to share their power and their medicine with you. And don't choose from your mind. Just notice what your body moves towards. Maybe notice who fascinates you the most. Maybe who unsettles you the most. Maybe notice who feels dangerous in a way that also feels strangely honest. And allow that creature to step closer. Look into their eyes and ask them, what medicine do you carry for me? And what part of me are you here to awaken? Ask them to help you see what you're done tolerating, what the hell needs to end. And what am I no longer willing to abandon myself for? Now, allow this creature's energy to move into your body. Maybe you feel the venom entering your bloodstream, not as poison, but medicine. Maybe you feel armor forming around your body. Maybe your spine straightens. Maybe your senses sharpen. Maybe your skin begins to shed. Maybe for the first time in a long time, you stop feeling harmless. And not because you want to hurt people, but because you're no longer available for your own diminishment. So just take a moment and physically embody this creature. Let your posture change. Let your breathing change. Walk as this creature. Move as this creature. Become aware of what it feels like to stop apologizing for existing with power. Now breathe deep into your body, deep into your spine. Breathe deep into your gut, into your bones. And breathe in precision and breathe out leaking your energy, trying to keep everyone comfortable. Breathe in sacred protection and breathe out the lie that self-abandonment is compassion for others. Breathe in your untamed self and breathe out the watered down version of you that learned to stay agreeable and non-threatening so other people wouldn't choke on your power. Breathe in your inner, don't fuck with me, and breathe out the nervous system collapse that taught you to freeze, appease, over-explain, and betray yourself the second tension entered the room. Breathe in fierce clarity. Breathe out guilt for disrupting what was slowly killing you. Breathe in the clean cut and breathe out the slow spiritual death of people pleasing. Because not everything sacred is soft. Some things are sacred because they finally end the bullshit that should have never been tolerated in the first place. The cobra does not explain itself 17 times before striking. The scorpion does not apologize for having a stinger. The black widow does not shrink because someone got uncomfortable with her power. Then the mantis? The mantis will absolutely cut a motherfucker's head off when necessary and then continue on with its day completely unbothered. And honestly, there is a hell of a lot of medicine in that. So now repeat after me, either in your mind or out loud. I am allowed to protect what is sacred. I am allowed to become difficult to manipulate. I am allowed to stop negotiating with people committed to crossing my boundaries. And I'm allowed to trust the part of me that says this ends here. So fuck the conditioning that taught me my anger was the problem. Fuck the systems that survive by exhausting people into obedience. Fuck the voices that taught me being good mattered more than being real. Fuck shrinking. Fuck betraying myself to keep the peace. Fuck performative spirituality that teaches people to stay soft enough to tolerate harm indefinitely. Fuck confusing silence with enlightenment. Fuck every system that taught human beings to disconnect from instinct, truth, rage, grief, and sacred disruption in order to remain acceptable. And finally, fuck around and find out. Because, not because I exist to destroy everything in my path, but because I am no longer available for my own diminishment. I was never meant to be harmless. And when you're ready, begin returning to the room. We hope you enjoyed another spiritually incorrect meditation. Awesome. Well, shall we get into it? We're so excited to
Yeah.
talk about the sacred destructor today. I might be at this point.
Destruction.
Whatever.
Yes.
Well, let's get into it.
Yeah.
So, one of the biggest lies that people have been taught is that destruction is automatically evil, it's wrong, it's cruel. But I want to remind you all that destruction is actually a part of every single living system on Earth. Nature already understands this, like forests burn so ecosystems can regenerate. Cells die in the body so we can heal. You know, winter strips everything bare so spring has, somewhere to emerge from. So it's like death and rebirth are not opposites, they're actually partners. And so the way we want you to see the sacred destroyer is that it's not the enemy of life. It's actually the protector of life. And the sacred destroyer is often the force that protects life from stagnation, from illusion, from decay, from false peace, systems that should have ended a long time ago. And that's why the destroyer archetype has existed across cultures and spiritual traditions forever. Who here is familiar with Kali Ma? So Kali Ma is a powerful Hindu goddess who is considered to be like the ultimate protector and divine mother. She destroys ignorance and illusion. So you can often see her walking around wearing a garland of severed heads and a skirt with severed limbs. We're sharing some images that you've probably seen some similar of Kali Ma. Like she is fierce, absolutely. And Joanna, she's one of your favorites. That's awesome. Um, who here is familiar with Santa Muerte? She's one of my favorites. She is a Mexican folk saint and she has ancient Aztec ties. And her name means Saint Death. And she teaches transformation through death and endings. And so she's usually pictured as a female personification of death with a scythe. And then we have just Mother Earth herself. You know, she destroys constantly through storms, fire, decay, erosion, renewal. You can actually see the Sacred Destroyer even show up in the tarot, which I know we have a lot of fan of the tarots here, with the Tower card. So these are just a few examples, but you can see them, you know, across all cultures and time. So if we're really to look at things honestly, I don't think some things are meant to be saved. Some things are meant to end. Like some relationships, identities, systems, different versions of ourselves. Some of those things should end. And like we found out in our meditation, not everything sacred is soft. Some things are sacred because they finally end what should have never continued in the first place. And I think the problem is that most people can understand this idea of sacred destruction intellectually in nature, but the moment that this destruction enters our lives through, like, say, relationships or careers, politics, family systems, spirituality, our identity, then we really start to panic. And then suddenly the destroyer becomes bad, which brings us to our next point.
Yes. Most people were really conditioned to associate destroyer energy with being self-serving or selfish, or violent, out of control, dangerous, well, especially unspiritual, or and way too much. And in spiritual culture in particular, a lot of people were taught that being evolved meant being non-violent, non-violent communication, non-violent fill in the blank. It's endlessly accommodating. Everything should be just peace, endlessly forgiving, endlessly patient, endlessly compassionate. However, the compassion thing is somewhat distorted, and it's part of the sacred destroyer's medicine. And the way that she does it is quite wonderful. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. But how many of you are guilty for always seeing the good in people? And because of that, some people have extracted some really amazing things from you, your time, your energy, your resources, right? Always seeing the good. So our unwillingness to be able to just cut something off, um, is that learned behavior. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to upset people. We don't want to be too angry, especially uh, too powerful at all. Or at least many of us were raised that way. Um, so on a personal level, people stay in relationships that are sucking us, it's so vampiric, killing us, because generally, often we love the other more than we love ourselves, and it takes a while. And this is part of the conditioning. And this is how the destroyer was systemically taken away from us at a very young age. This selfless service thing, this not existing thing. How can you be so selfless serving and take up your blade at the same time? We were conditioned. So a lot of us have to reclaim this at a really deep level, because suppressing yourself, gaslighting yourself, taking up the mantle of gaslighting oneself because we were gaslighted our whole lives, believing that we do not have the power, that this destruction and destroyer energy is actually a bad thing and not a natural of nature thing, um, is um, causing a lot of internal destruction, if you will. Our fear of endings, a fear of the fallout, the fear of being misunderstood, um, the fear of being called that, rageful, being unfair, those kinds of things. So, we suppress it, and suppression is not compassion. And actually, what a lot of people are doing instead of compassion is fear. Their version of compassion is actually fear and avoidance. So the sacred destroyers really love that refuses self-abandonment. And when that destroyer energy gets suppressed long enough, it sadly, it doesn't just disappear, it distorts.
So what we found is that the sacred destroyer actually exists on a spectrum, and it's not the destroyer itself that is the problem. It's the suppression and really the dysregulation is the problem. And so people tend to land in one of three places. And so I'm going to share these with you, and I want you to just listen to these and see where you feel you recognize yourself in the spectrum. And sometimes when you hear these, you can really recognize other people that are close to you in your life, kind of where they are too. So I think it helps to kind of bring it to life with yourself and with people you know too. And so the first is really like the underutilized or like the suppressed destroyer. We like to think of this almost as like the ghost, the self-abandoner, or like the doormat. This person is really conflict avoidant, passive, over accommodating, maybe just terrified to disrupt anything. Everyone else's needs matter more than theirs, and they really start to disappear inside of relationships. And so these folks tend to really struggle with boundaries. They tend to freeze, appease, over-explain, self-betray constantly because somewhere along the way they learn survival through erasing themselves. And honestly, like a lot of people get rewarded for this socially, especially women. People call them nice, easygoing, selfless, sweet. Meanwhile, internally, they're exhausted, they're becoming resentful, disconnected, and really quietly experiencing that slow spiritual death of people pleasing. Then if you go way over to the other side, to the opposite end, is you have more of like that out of control destroyer. And we like to think of this more as like the tyrant. And this is where the destroyer energy becomes really reactive and explosive and impulsive, chaotic, and really typically pretty unconscious. This is a person that's like always burning bridges, people that are cutting others off instantly, weaponizing anger, dominating, controlling, just like this constant like fight response. And it's really destruction without discernment. It's just destroying everything. But even this usually isn't all bad or evil at its core. It's really often just a nervous system that never learned safety and is trying to protect themselves. And this is how they're doing it. Then in the middle, we have the balance destroyer. And we like to think of this more as like the protector, the sacred warrior, the guardian. And this is a person that is grounded and emotionally honest. They're protective, clear, they're rooted in truth rather than likability. And they're capable of endings and they're capable of sending and upholding boundaries too. And they're capable of disruption. And they can take the heat when necessary and they can withstand projection without collapsing into self-abandonment or exploding into disruption. And this is where devotion shifts from being nice to being honest. And so the balance destroyer protects what's sacred without becoming the tyrant. And honestly, I think a lot of suffering happens because people bounce back and forth between collapse and explosion. Like we repress it for so long, then eventually we explode, and then we go back to um, repressing all of that all over again, and we kind of end up in this cycle over and over between erasing one's own needs to like scorching the whole earth. Because nobody ever taught us how to like have conscious destroyer energy, which brings us to probably the most important point of tonight.
The opposite of destruction is not always peace. Sometimes the opposite of destruction is really stagnation, decay, and rot. We often think of the destroyer as a violent or belligerent, out of control killer, but when she's in balance, as Amber is saying, she brings movement, life, vitality into your lives. And she does this with the sharp blade, right? Her fierce and strategic protection and precision um, helps you cut through our biggest enemies. The head can come clean off, and the enemies of the guilt that makes you feel like you need to freeze instead of fight and get rid of it. The excessive patience, the fear of retaliation and rejection, um, the avoidance disguised as compassion, the self-doubt, the gaslighting yourself, and the wow, addiction to enduring toxicity and abuse and low levels of it, because many of us have been conditioned with it and we think it's normal. And what this does is it gives us that instead of our life being like a vital, juicy garden, life-giving garden, it becomes and feels more like a graveyard of rot and old corpses. And so this impacts this whole thing of allowing the dead not to fully die and to allow it to drag on, right? The suffering, it the endless suffering or the slow kill as opposed to the swift, precise kill actually impacts our nervous system. So as we mentioned, it's energy leak city. And in Peter Levine's research, who's this really great trauma therapist, his research points to the fact that trauma often comes less from the event itself and the way it impacts the brain. What actually impacts the brain is your inability to retaliate or to block it. So when we suppress that, it does kind of uh, disrupt our ability to be whole, to feel healthy, to feel vitality. So it's like no wonder we're all exhausted, right? We're still like kind of holding back that kill switch, and and we walk around with these nervous systems that are carrying around literally years of trapped survival energy because we learn to freeze, of course, instead of act, because it feels violent sometimes for us to act, even if we're using calm words. When we're putting clean endings for stuff, we're not just adjusting things or resetting our boundaries. We're going for the kill, okay? The compassionate kill. And when we suppress that ability to want to uh, actually violently attack, okay, because it's our animal instincts. We have the attack in nature, but it's when we repress it again that puts a scar in the brain and keeps the trauma repeating in our system. Um, so enduring the slow burn toxicity, appeasing the one who you see the good in, then that we see the good in, allowing the toxic boss, the toxic job that we're afraid to let go of sometimes because we feel that we need it, the relationship because we feel that we need it. Um, those are the things that really are causing us that exhaustion, that low-level trauma and the overwhelm. So sometimes it, in fact, is more harmful than the original wound. And so her message is a clean, precise, strategic, surgical ending to these things is what's going to help you let go the best and level up despite the guilt, despite what you think is good or bad. And that rabbit hole goes deep. So I'm hoping by now you guys are percolating and have percolated as we keep on rounding the circle around the elephant in the room. What is, what in your life right now has been begging and pleading for you to perhaps bring a compassionate ending to, a swift ending, as opposed to a slow burn ending? And it can be your patterns. It could be the roles that you're playing that are no longer in alignment. It doesn't have to be people or situations. It can be a behavior, an addiction. Um, Perhaps you're super designed to just endure other people's bullshit. And you're like, why am I doing this? And maybe over the last, year, a lot of us have been seeing these things more clearly. Like, why am I doing this again? Why is it okay when people put, make me somehow responsible for their own, whatever it is? So we're happy to now open up the conversation between the community and what what is percolating inside of you when we're saying embrace the sacred destroyer because it really is life-giving. It's not life destroying the way that so many people, the people who think it's so destroying is the people that are afraid of change is because they have limited vision. You can only see the hard moment, but you can't see past it into the freedom uh that the sacred destroyer is trying to lead you to. So we'd love to hear from any of you about, how this is stirring in you. And Amber, I just want to ask for you, um, how much would this talk have changed things, 20 years ago,
Oh my gosh. I just think about how the weight that I've carried over the years, like thinking that I've had to, that was the compassionate thing to do. But then it's one of those things, like I even have some patterns in my life right now where I've been the compassionate one, the one that listens, the cheerleader, the, that person. And I've realized now that it's at a point where it's actually been enabling, you know? And like, what would it have looked like if years ago, when I saw this pattern, I really came down with some like tough love instead and just told it like it was? I bet we'd be in a completely different situation today.
Yes,
Hmm.
just stating the blunt truth, as,
Yeah.
as opposed to hoping that someone's gonna intuitively pick up what we're putting down, or you're in a really bad marriage and you're just hoping that eventually you're gonna piss your partner off so much that they'll be the one to leave, right?
Yeah.
Um, as a marriage and
Which on
family
that note, I
therapist,
have to say, like I had been married before I'm married now, and getting divorced was seriously the best thing that I ever did. And I definitely waited too long, but by the time I did, I had my blade sharpened and did it as fast as I could, and that was a blessing.
right? Yeah. Yeah, when we're so wrapped up into like not being non-bi, we don't want to cause harm. And I mean, it really is more harmful, the slow burn of that. I think as a marriage and family therapist, just with basic things like with friendships, relationships, the ones that held on to the truth for too long are the ones that ended up in straight contempt for each other. Like unrepairable. Those are the ones that build the stories of by the end of that, they're just like, they're super evil because it went on too long. There was too much damage done in the interim. That
Mhm.
extra year could have been only a week. So that extra year is all this subconscious, like sabotagey stuff just to get someone out of it, you know? Um, and that's when we burn down the building. That's when we throw out the baby with the bathwater. We burn down the whole building instead of
Yeah.
just burning a sweet path down the red carpet out towards your freedom.
Yeah. And when you finally see that, then you realize that that wasn't compassion at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was not an Amer I am also an American family therapist, a marriage and family therapist. So I did a lot of couples counseling and I love couples, but it's really clear. The hard, blunt truth
Mhm.
from the heart, right? Tends to help things along. So what's percolating inside of you guys? Is there something that's kind of slow burning? Just a slow, sometimes it's subtle. The more we advance, um, I would say especially into leadership, as we move into leadership and like leading our lives from the heart, I would say. And also if you're leading communities and stuff, the tolerance for the toxicity becomes less and less. So it can be so subtle at a certain point. You wouldn't even have noted it like 10 years ago. So part of this work is really tuning in your sniffer to the more subtle things that could be supremely out of alignment, but you're not addressing. As we wrap this up for us, we're so thankful that you guys are like wanting to take this journey with us. Because it's just this, it was like this wild idea that we had. And this Rage Lab 2 and this energy, and we are still discovering new frontiers we are creating. And what we want you, at least for today, to take away is to notice one place where you're getting something, a long, painful death instead of a clean, honest ending. And then when you get, and as you do, like as you ruminate on that, go home, have an action step about what am I going to do when I get home? You know, what am I going to do? Or if you are home, what am I going to do about this situation? What is a one simple, swift act? So keep that in mind. So from here, we want you to keep your eyes peeled because we have our Substack coming up, right,
Mhm.
Amber?
Yeah.
Our Substack. We're recording some podcasts. We have been we've been doing, I mean, we have so many juicy ideas and so much content that is getting dropped down so soon. Watch out for our Substack so you can sign up for our Substack and let it roll. Amber, anything you want to add in there?
If you aren't officially on the Sacred Revolt email list, we would invite you to be on that because that's where you're going to hear about everything first. Amber just dropped the link in the chat if you haven't officially registered for that. Also, like if you are liking these conversations and really kind of this unbleached view on real talk around spiritual topics, and you think other people in your life would enjoy these too, like feel free to share it with them too. Like we really are seeing this as a sacred revolt movement, a revolution.
Yes, yes, thank you so much. Really take care of yourselves. Um, embrace it.
And we'll be seeing y'all soon.